Afternoon, clearly. Just a couple more programming notes. I know today's already a busy day, but at night, just a reminder that you all got an email about a background briefing at 3:30 p.m. this afternoon. And that will be linked to the event tomorrow morning, which is at 9 a.m. The Secretary General will be at the Security Council stakeout to brief you on the launch of his UN 80 initiative, which has a large focus on reform issues, and that will take place at the Security Council stakeout at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And as a reminder, after the stakeout, the Secretary General will be going off to Bangladesh as part of his Ramadan solidarity visit. At noon, we will have a guest, and it will be the inaugural appearance by our friend Tom Fletcher, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. He will be here live and in person. And at 2 p.m., there will be a briefing sponsored here by the Permanent Mission of Ireland to the United Nations with the NGO Karama, and that is pegged to the CSW meetings. Speaking of the Commission on the Status of Women, this morning the Secretary General spoke at the town hall meeting with civil society on the occasion of the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. He thanked participants for being on the front lines during these difficult times to deliver gender equality. I stand with you now and always, Mr. Guterres said. He added that together we must push countries and governments to invest in equality for women and girls, push for greater support for women's rights and organizations, and for action to tackle misogyny online and close the digital gender divide. In these days of danger, civil society is the driver that makes a difference, the Secretary General said, before hearing from various members of civil societies on their views. And you will have seen that yesterday member states adopted by consensus the political declaration committing to respect, to protect, and to promote the rights and equality and empowerment of all women and girls. More information is online. Also, just to flag that yesterday, the first draft of the outcome document for the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development was published by the co-facilitators, and those are the representatives of Mexico, Nepal, Norway, and Zambia. The document recognizes that the world is in a sustainable development crisis and that financing challenges are at the heart of this crisis, with a growing SDG finance gap of $4 trillion US. The document sets out commitments for an impact-focused sustainable development investment push and for ambitious international financial architecture reform. Negotiations among the member states will get underway on March 24th ahead of the actual conference, which, as you all know, will take place in Sevilla in Spain, a lovely place, from June 30th to July 3rd. I want to move to Syria and recent developments there, and I can tell you that we welcome the agreement signed by the leadership of the caretaker authorities in Syria and the Syrian Democratic Forces that took place on Monday, March 10th. That would be yesterday. Our special envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, hopes that an agreement can support and feed into a broader, credible, and inclusive political transition process in line with the key principles of Security Council Resolution 2254 that leads to a new constitution and free and fair elections. Mr. Pedersen strongly encourages key international stakeholders, including the United States and Turkey and regional partners, to support their Syrian partners. That includes supporting a nationwide ceasefire and ensuring genuine compromises that enable peace and stability to take hold in the northeast part of Syria. On the humanitarian front, we've obviously remained very concerned about the impact of the recent violence we saw in coastal areas in Syria. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that power outages continued to disrupt water services in Latakia Governorate, and schools in Latakia and Tartus have been suspended. As you may know, you saw that our High Commissioner for Human Rights, our friend Volker Turk, welcomed the announcement by the caretaker authorities of an independent investigation committee, and we call on them to ensure that the investigation is undertaken are prompt, they are thorough, they are independent, and that they are impartial. Meanwhile, on a more positive note, the delivery of cross-border assistance from Turkey into northwest Syria is continuing. Today, 31 trucks from the World Food Program, the International Organization for Migration, and the UN Refugee Agency went through the Bab al-Hawa crossing from Turkey into Syria. They were able to deliver more than 600 metric tons of aid supplies, including food, shelter, repair, and hygiene kits. This very much needed aid comes as we and our partners continue to try to mobilize assistance for people in need, including for those displaced by the recent violence. And turning to the occupied Palestinian territory and in Gaza, our humanitarian colleagues warned that the cargo closure imposed by Israeli authorities for the last 10 days is already reversing progress made during the first 6 weeks of the ceasefire. OCHA reports that the Karim Shalom crossing also remains closed for the collection of cargo for the 10th consecutive day. This is cargo that had entered Gaza prior to the closure, which we have been unable to access. OCHA says fuel for backup generators at water and health facilities is running low. Cooking gas prices are rising again, and distribution of flour, fresh produce, and shelter material has been disrupted. And in a statement he issued yesterday, Mohammed Hadi, the humanitarian coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory, said that the sustained supply of aid is indispensable for the survival of over 2 million Palestinians who've endured unimaginable conditions for many months. He underscored that the ceasefire must hold, the parties must fulfill their obligations under international law, hostages must be released, and humanitarian assistance must be allowed in again. Despite these challenges, we and our partners in Gaza are using every opportunity provided by the ceasefire to deliver aid with the stocks available. For this past week, UNICEF delivered baby kits to hospitals in northern Gaza to help protect newborns from cold, injuries, and hypothermia. UNICEF is also providing CPAP devices to hospitals, giving vulnerable newborns a fighting chance. Since the ceasefire took effect and as of 6th of March, the Food and Agriculture Organization has delivered over 1,000 tons of animal feed concentrate, helping to protect remaining livestock, restore food production, and reduce families' dependence on external food aid. In the West Bank, OCHA tells us that Israeli forces continue their operations in the north with further casualties, disruption, and displacement in recent days. We and our partners are addressing people's needs by providing food, water, as well as hygiene and bedding for all those that are been displaced. And moving to Sudan, which is yet another tragic humanitarian situation, our humanitarian partners in North Darfur are reporting an extremely dire health situation, particularly in the state capital of El Fasher and displacement camps around in the surrounding areas. Currently, more than 200 health facilities in El Fasher are not functioning, and there are severe shortages of medical staff and severe critical shortages of medical supplies. Our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that the continued hostilities have caused waves of displacements, overwhelming an already fragile healthcare system that is struggling to meet people's basic needs. On top of that, the insecurity and the access constraints continue to impede our partners' attempts to provide essential medical supplies. The picture is bleak, but sadly not only in El Fasher. We told you yesterday about an outbreak of diseases in White Nile State, for instance, that deepened the humanitarian crisis. Across areas impacted by the hostilities in Sudan, the World Health Organization tells us that 70% of hospitals and health facilities are no longer operational, leaving millions without health care. Sudan's health system has also come under relentless attack. As of mid-February, WHO recorded nearly 150 attacks on healthcare centers in Sudan since the war began there, but the real figure is most likely far higher. We appeal, yet again, for the parties to the conflict to ensure sustained and a timely humanitarian access to reach people in need of critical support. Civilians have to be protected, and the essential needs of their survivals have to be met. Just to flag an update from UNICEF and refugees from Rohingya refugees. Our UNICEF colleagues tell us there's been a 27% surge over the past year in the number of children needing emergency treatment for severe acute malnutrition in Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh. In Cox's Bazar, where the Secretary General will be over the weekend, where 1 million Rohingya refugees are living, including more than 500,000 children. Over 15% of children in the camps are now malnourished, the highest level recorded since the mass displacement of Rohingya refugees back in 2017. UNICEF said the surge in malnutrition is fueled by multiple factors, including prolonged monsoon rains last year, which triggered spikes in severe diarrhea and outbreaks of cholera and dengue, the impact of intermittent food ration cuts over the previous 2 years, and a growing number of families fleeing violence and seeking shelter in the camps in recent months. Last year, UNICEF provided life-saving treatment to nearly 12,000 children under the age of 5. Those treated, 92% of them recovered, but without urgent and sustained intervention, severe acute malnutrition can be fatal. UNICEF says it is determined to stay and deliver for children, but without guaranteed funding, critical services are at risk. And just a quick note from Mozambique, where our OCHA colleagues say that Tropical Cyclone Jude, the third such storm to hit the country in less than 3 months, made landfall yesterday in Nampula province in the north with winds of up to 140 kilometers an hour. According to what authorities are telling us, at least 780,000 people could be impacted by high winds and torrential rains in the province of Nampula and Zambezia. As part of the UN-backed Anticipatory Action Framework, the Central Emergency Response Fund rapidly released $6 million 3 days before the latest cyclone hit. These funds are being used to ensure communities are made aware of emergencies, as well as support temporary accommodations centers and provide emergency supplies. The government of Mozambique is leading the response, with OCHA having deployed staff members to Nampula on Sunday to support our partners and the authorities to coordinate the humanitarian response. Our humanitarian colleagues warn that aid stocks have not been replenished following the humanitarian response to cyclones Chido and Dikeledi, which impacted 700,000 human beings. The $134 million flash appeal for the last 2 cyclones is less than 1% funded, with only $1 million in the bank. And just for the record, to note that yesterday afternoon, Rosa Otunbayeva, our special representative for Afghanistan, ahead of the UN mission, briefed the Security Council on the situation in that country, and the text was with you. And also want to flag that Virginia Gamba, from the Special Representative for Children in Armed Conflict, is launching a new campaign today called Prove It Matters, aimed to uphold the spirit of the Convention of the Child and to bring the voices of children up front. I guess Prove It Matters. There we go. Punctuation saves lives. The campaign was launched in Geneva a few minutes ago. In a video, the Secretary General said the children caught in the grip of war represent one of the most heartbreaking and shameful tragedies of our time, adding that when the world came together to adopt the Convention on the Rights of Child, they made the promise that children's rights should be upheld at all times, even in war. Children are calling for peace, he said. It's time to listen and to prove it matters. You can watch the event on the UN Web TV, and more information on the website of our colleagues at the Office of the Children in Armed Conflict. No money, but we'll have questions. Edie, Maggie, Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on the attack by Pakistani militants on a train in Baluchistan where hostages who were passengers have been taken?
Yeah, we've just seen the reports. We, of course, condemn any hostage taking, and we call on those who've taken people hostage to release them at once, but we're going to keep following the situation as it evolves.
And on El Fasher, is the siege of the city still taking place?
We continue, our humanitarian partners on the ground, our local partners, continue to face incredible odds in trying to get humanitarian aid to where it needs to be. Maggie, then Gabriel, then Pam, and then
The Israeli Prime Minister has announced that IDF representatives and representatives from the United States, France, and Lebanon met today in Nakura in South Lebanon. And they agreed to form 3 joint working groups to stabilize the area and focus on issues, including the blue line. And so I just wanted to know, is the United Nations going to be a part of whatever's coming out of this?
We hosted the meeting, as far as I understand it, in our headquarters in Nakura. As you know, the facilities that we have are meant to bring Israeli and Lebanese officials together. It's a place where the tripartite mechanism is met repeatedly. We've just seen the announcement. I'll try to get you a bit more details, but obviously any effort to bring stability to the blue line, to both sides, to people, so people on both sides of the blue line can resume their lives and lessen a point of instability in an unstable region would be welcome.
But if it is the blue line, shouldn't UNIFIL be involved?
Yeah, as I said, I
Okay.
will get you more information that I can share. I will share with you, Margaret. Gabriel.
Thanks, Steph. Regarding the SG tomorrow at the stakeout, is he expected to take questions?
I will not promise something I cannot promise to deliver on. How about that?
Okay.
I know, Maggie. Yeah.
9 a.m. there should be questions.
Okay. Yeah.
On Gaza, Steph, thank you. On Gaza, you said that due to 10 days of the Israeli blockade of Gaza, that its progress is regressing.
Yeah.
Can you give some more granularity on exactly how?
First of all, it's heightening the anxiety of those Palestinians who rely on humanitarian aid, which is almost all of them, right? Because when you know aid is going to come in every day, it's a different situation when you know that no more aid is coming in and you're only relying, there's only whatever's in. So that's a very important one. It's forcing us to ration everything we distribute, right? To ensure that the stocks last longer, including fuel, which is critical. And of course, we've seen prices rise again. I mean, it's a market economy. If people know that there's no more cooking gas coming in, there are no more fresh vegetables coming in, or flour, the price of whatever is in Gaza will go up, and it has gone up.
And just one follow-up on that, Steph. It seems like the international community, in some regards, is almost resigned to the fact that Israel can get away with this without any repercussions. From the Secretary General's standpoint, what are the pressure points that can be put on Israel to reverse this policy at this critical time during these talks?
First of all, we want to make sure that the talks succeed, which includes the resumption of humanitarian aid, the release of all hostages, and hopefully the resumption of a political horizon. But they are member states that have an ability to pressure the parties involved in this issue, and we hope that everybody uses whatever influence they have in a positive way. Sylviane, and then Pam, sorry.
Thank you, Stéphane. I'm not sure, I didn't hear properly Margaret's question. I'm not sure that's the same question.
Well, you ask your question and I will tell you if I've answered it already. Your microphone a little closer to your mouth, please.
Yeah. Massad Boulos, who is the Donald Trump's Lebanese-American advisor on Arab and Middle East affairs, met with an Israeli settlement official in Washington to discuss hope for concrete results regarding a peace agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Is the United Nations involved in these peace talks?
I mean, the only discussions that we are involved in fact, that we hosted, are the discussions between the Israelis and the Lebanese in Nakura. I can't speak to the events that you just referred to because I don't know anything. I haven't heard that except when you... Yeah, I know, but there's
But I'm
my
just,
capacity is limited.
My question is, will United Nations will be involved in the peace talks?
We will do whatever we can to support the normalization between the two countries. Pamela.
Thanks, Steph. You just heard the High Representative Kallas talk about the UN Charter and getting a peaceful settlement in Ukraine that has accountability for aggressor state, an aggressor state. Is the UN in any way involved or have a representative at the Saudi talks that are taking place right now? And are you getting any reports on that? Thank you.
We're obviously following it through, not only through the media, but through other channels, but we do not have a representative there.
And on Kallas's comment,
Which,
just about Ukraine needing accountability on the Ukraine conflict.
well, I mean, you know, every conflict that sees violations of international law needs accountability. Sinan, then Evelyn, then Stefano.
Thank you, Steph. You mentioned that the Secretary General welcomes the agreements made between the transitional government and Syrian Democratic Forces. So I wonder if Mr. Gabe Pedersen played any role between those actors' sides.
I don't have any information to share with you on that.
And quick follow-up, you said Mr. Gabe Pedersen urges all the key actors to support such agreements, and especially Turkey and United States, to support the ceasefire in Syria. So I wonder if he's going to meet with Turkey or United States or Syrian Democratic Forces anytime soon.
I mean, Mr. Pedersen and his representatives have met and continue to meet all the relevant actors. What is important is that in Syria, as in other places around the world, in other conflict countries around the world, there are a lot of external actors, right? Regional actors and further afield. It's critical that all of them who have influence on the parties use that influence for the benefit of the people in the country. And we hope that that will happen. Evelyn, and then Stefano.
Thank you, Stéphane. In North Darfur, the siege, the people conducting the siege, is it just the RSF or does it have company?
I don't know if they have company. Stefano.
Thank you, Stéphane. The President of the United States, Trump, today posted a post saying about Canada, the artificial line of separation drawn many years ago will finally disappear, and we will have the safest and most beautiful nation. Now, the Prime Minister Trudeau already said that will never happen. Is probably the third, fourth times that in this room this is asked to you, but maybe is the time that for the Secretary General to have a response about this threat and toward
The response,
a nation?
the Secretary General's response has always been very clear, and it's embedded in the Charter, that every member state who has signed on to the Charter, and that's 193 of them, need to respect what's in the Charter, and that includes the territorial integrity of states. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steph. I'm wondering if you have any comment on the arrest of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte by the ICC warrant.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously we've seen the reports. As you know, the International Criminal Court is a separate institution from the UN, so we don't comment on their every specific action. But the Secretary General has great respects the independence of the court and respects its work. Yeah, please.
Largest Ukrainian drone attack on Russian capital, Russian regions, conducted this night. Do you have anything to say about it?
I can tell you that we strongly condemn all attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure wherever they occur, including the attacks that reportedly killed 21 people across Ukraine on March 7th, and the attacks that reportedly killed at least 3 people in Moscow today. Directing attacks against civilians and civilian objects is prohibited by international humanitarian law, and any such attacks must cease immediately. We once again reiterate the Secretary General's call for urgent de-escalation, an immediate end to the hostilities, and our support to all meaningful efforts towards a just, lasting, comprehensive, and sustainable peace to fully uphold Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity in line with the Charter, relevant resolutions, and international law. Okay. Any questions online? Thank you all, and we shall. Oh, Abdelhamid, you have a question. You want to try? See if your microphone works.
I hope I fixed my computer. Can you hear
okay.
me?
Okay. Yes, go ahead. Try it, Abdelhamid.
Oh, no problem. 10 Palestinians were killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours, and 4 were killed in the West Bank. I haven't seen these casualties coming in your briefing as usual. I mean, why Palestinians, when they are killed, they don't show up in your briefing?
Abdelhamid, with all due respect, I think that is an unfair assessment. We have been speaking at length, almost on a regular basis, on the situation of Palestinians, condemning the loss of life, whether in the West Bank or Gaza. I may not have every day the most updated report, but we've spoken about it repeatedly.
An area next to the Jenin refugee camp were ordered today to leave their homes, and Israel started also destroying these homes near the Jenin camp, making the expulsion of the Palestinians from their homes becoming a major issue now in the West Bank. So what do you say to that?
Well, we've been talking about that very specific issue almost on a daily basis, and bringing it to light and condemning the excessive use of force and the forced displacement of people and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. Thank you.